The Vitorans were an ancient and highly advanced alien species, known throughout the galaxy for their peace-loving ways and unmatched knowledge of the universe. They had watched Earth for centuries, studying humanity from afar. Finally, the day had come when they were ready to make contact. A small group of human representatives, including scientists, diplomats, and military personnel, were chosen to board the Vitoran flagship for a historic meeting. The humans were eager to meet their new extraterrestrial friends, but little did they know, the meeting would turn out to be far more awkward than they could have imagined. As the human representatives arrived at the gleaming Vitoran space station, they marveled at the immense structure. It was like nothing they had ever seen before, massive, elegant, and filled with advanced technology. The Vitorans greeted them warmly, their alien eyes wide with curiosity. Despite their peaceful reputation, there was an air of nervous excitement about them. They had been studying human biology for years, and now they were finally about to meet humans face to face. The humans were led into a vast chamber, where the medical exam would take place. The room was sterile, filled with equipment that seemed straight out of a science fiction movie. The Vitorans explained that they needed to conduct a series of medical tests on the humans to ensure they were free from harmful biological traits. These tests were meant to determine whether humanity was ready to join the galactic community. The humans nodded, unaware that this routine exam would soon become the strangest experience of their lives. The first test was a simple scan, they were told. The Vitorans would use their advanced technology to read the human body's systems, detecting any potential health risks. The humans were asked to stand in a circular chamber, and beams of light shot out from the walls, scanning their bodies in every direction. The humans stood still, feeling a little uncomfortable, but trying to remain calm. They had no idea how alien the experience would feel to the Vitorans. As the scans finished, the Vitorans exchanged confused glances. Their expressions were hard to read, but it was clear that something was wrong. One of the Vitoran scientists, a tall being with shimmering green skin, stepped forward. "Fascinating," they said in a voice that echoed in the sterile room. "Your biology. It's unlike anything we've ever encountered." The humans exchanged uncertain glances. What did that mean? Were they in danger? The Vitoran scientist explained that their scanners had revealed unexpected results. Humans had an immune system that was unusually resilient, capable of adapting quickly to threats. The humans were completely baffled. "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Jennifer Harper, a scientist in the human delegation. "It means your immune system is stronger than anything we've seen before. It defends you against diseases we thought would be lethal," the Vitoran replied, still scanning the data. "This is unexpected." The humans were taken aback. They had known about their immune systems, but to an alien race, this was something new, something mysterious. The Vitorans, who had never encountered such a robust defense against illness, began discussing it among themselves in a language the humans couldn't understand. The air grew tense. "Are we not healthy?" one of the humans asked nervously, trying to break the silence. No, it's just extraordinary," the Vitoran scientist replied, still looking at the scan with awe. "We need to test further." The humans were starting to feel more than a little uncomfortable. It seemed their simple medical checkup was turning into something much bigger and much stranger than they'd ever expected. The Vitorans' medical tests were far from ordinary. After the initial scan, they led the humans into another chamber, where the real procedures were about to begin. The humans tried to keep their nerves in check, but it was hard not to feel out of place in such a high-tech alien environment. "Please remain calm," a Vitoran spokesperson, who introduced himself as Kelver, said in a soft, almost soothing voice. "This next step is necessary for us to understand the full extent of your biology." The humans nodded, though some exchanged uneasy looks. Dr. Harper, the scientist who had asked the first question about their immune system, felt a growing sense of unease. She had dealt with advanced medical equipment before, but nothing like this. The Vitorans didn't seem to have any traditional medical tools. No needles, no familiar machines. Instead, they used glowing devices that hovered in the air, adjusting themselves automatically as if they had a mind of their own. Kelver motioned for the humans to sit down in a row of cushioned chairs that seemed to adjust to their bodies as they sat. This will help us get a better understanding of your physiological processes. We'll begin with the heart. The Vitorans attached thin, shimmering wires to the humans' temples, their chests, and even to the tips of their fingers. The wires were soft, almost like strands of energy, and they began to pulse with light the moment they made contact. The humans couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines as the Vitorans manipulated the wires with a gentle touch, reading every heartbeat, every fluctuation in body temperature, and every tiny electrical signal that passed through their nervous systems. As the data filled the air around them, the Vitorans observed intently, murmuring in their language. The humans couldn't understand what they were saying, but they could see the growing confusion in their eyes. The wires on their bodies vibrated, signaling to the Vitorans that something was not quite right. "We've never seen heart rhythms like this before," one of the Vitorans said, her voice filled with both curiosity and concern. "It's irregular, but not in a way we recognize." Dr. Harper frowned. She had always known that humans had a variety of heart conditions, but this was something different. "What do you mean? Is there a problem?" Kelver stepped forward, his face a mix of fascination and uncertainty. "Not a problem, but something we didn't expect. Your heart beats with a strength and pattern that changes with each individual. It's as if each human heart learns and adapts as you experience life." "How does this work?" The human delegation, now thoroughly uncomfortable, exchanged glances. The heart was one thing, but they had never imagined that it would become such an intense subject of study. "We're just normal," Dr. Harper said, trying to reassure them. "It's just human biology. It's different for everyone, but it's nothing to be concerned about." But the Vitorans were clearly not reassured. Kelver nodded slowly, taking notes, though the concern didn't leave his face. "There's more to you than we thought," he said softly, as if speaking more to himself than to the humans. The next test was even more strange. The Vitorans began measuring the humans' sense of touch. Small translucent devices hovered near the human skin, sending pulses of energy into their bodies. The humans could feel their nerve endings reacting, tingling as if their bodies were being reprogrammed. The Vitorans were testing how sensitive the humans were to various sensations. Each time the pulses changed, the humans reacted in different ways, their skin tightening or relaxing, sometimes even feeling like their muscles had been stretched. The Vitorans were amazed. They couldn't understand how such subtle differences in human touch could create such diverse responses. It was like the humans were constantly adapting to their surroundings in ways that even the Vitorans didn't understand. The humans, however, were becoming increasingly uncomfortable. Dr. Harper felt her body respond to the strange pulses, and she couldn't help but notice how her fellow humans were squirming in their seats. They hadn't signed up for this kind of test. The medical exam was supposed to be straightforward, not a bizarre science experiment. "We don't usually feel like this," one of the humans muttered under his breath. "This is all too much." But the Vitorans, caught up in their fascination with the data, didn't seem to notice. They were too busy marveling at how every test revealed something new about the humans, something they hadn't expected. It was becoming clear that they had underestimated just how strange and complex human biology truly was. As the tests continued, the humans could only wonder what would come next. What other mysteries did their bodies hold that the Vitorans would struggle to comprehend? By the third test, the humans were beginning to feel more like lab subjects than dignitaries. The Vitorans had moved on to testing human sensory perception, using their advanced technology to manipulate light, sound, and even smells in the room. What the humans had thought would be a routine physical examination was quickly turning into an overwhelming series of strange experiences that made them question what exactly the Vitorans had in mind. "Next, we will test your response to light, Kelver," the Vitoran scientist announced in his soft, measured voice. His eyes glowed slightly as he activated a device that filled the room with bright, shifting lights. The humans were immediately blinded by the sudden onslaught of colors and flashes, blinking rapidly as their eyes adjusted. At first, the humans tried to stay composed. After all, they had been trained to handle medical exams, no matter how unusual, but the lights were intense. Some of the humans squinted, while others began to twitch nervously. Dr. Harper, though calm on the outside, could feel a headache starting to build behind her eyes. "Please remain still," Kelver said, his voice unwavering. "We need to measure your response." One of the humans, a soldier named Alex, couldn't stand it any longer. He raised his hand and spoke. "This is too much. We didn't sign up for this." Kelver paused, his expression unreadable. "We only wish to understand you fully. This light exposure is harmless." "Harmless," Alex muttered, rubbing his eyes. "It feels like my brain is about to explode." The Vitorans didn't seem to notice the discomfort. They were focused on the readings from their devices. As the light pulses continued, the humans began to show a range of reactions, from blinking rapidly to becoming tense and irritated. Dr. Harper noticed that some of the humans, even though they were clearly uncomfortable, were trying to adapt to the lights. Their pupils narrowed, adjusting to the intensity in ways the Vitorans found fascinating. "It's incredible," one of the Vitorans said, turning to his colleagues. "They are able to adjust so quickly. It's like their bodies know how to adapt to almost any condition, almost instantly." As the lights finally faded, the humans let out a collective sigh of relief. But they were quickly hit with another sensory test. This time, a strange smell filled the room. It was sharp and unfamiliar, like a mixture of burning metal and something sweeter. Most of the humans recoiled, their faces wrinkling in disgust. Alex looked like he was about to gag. Kelver watched them closely, his glowing eyes narrowed with interest. "You are reacting strongly to this scent. Why?" "Because it smells horrible," Alex blurted out. Kelver tilted his head slightly, processing the response. "Interesting. Your sense of smell is very acute. The Vitorans have no such reactions to odors." Dr. Harper, trying to keep her composure, added, "Humans have a highly developed sense of smell. It helps us detect danger, food, and other important things. It's not always a pleasant experience." Kelver nodded, taking notes, but didn't seem fully satisfied. "You are also quite emotional. It's as if your reactions to stimuli are tied to your emotions. Is that normal for your species?" The humans exchanged uncomfortable glances. This wasn't exactly the direction they had expected the exam to go. Yes, humans were emotional, but they didn't think it was something that would become such a point of study for an alien species. "Of course it's normal," Dr. Harper said with a sigh. "Humans feel things. It's part of who we are. We experience emotions that affect our reactions." One of the younger humans, Maria, a college student, couldn't help herself. "Look, I don't know what you expected, but we're not robots. We don't just sit here and take whatever you throw at us." The Vitorans looked at each other, puzzled. They had assumed that emotional responses were a flaw in biological design. To them, a perfect species would be calm, composed, and logical at all times, something that seemed to come naturally to them. The humans, on the other hand, were unpredictable. Their emotions drove them to react strongly, sometimes in ways that didn't make sense to the Vitorans. To the aliens, this was a mystery that needed to be solved. But for the humans, it was clear that the Vitorans were missing the point. Emotions weren't flaws. They were what made humans unique. They were what allowed humans to fight for survival, to love, to create, and to build relationships. The humans' reactions, whether to light, smell, or anything else, were part of their strength. As the tests continued, the humans started to grow more frustrated. The Vitorans' calm and methodical approach only seemed to highlight the awkwardness of the situation. The humans weren't just biological samples to be analyzed. They were people with lives, experiences, and emotions that couldn't be easily categorized or understood. And they were starting to wonder if the Vitorans would ever see that. Despite the discomfort, one thing was becoming increasingly clear to the humans. They had underestimated how different they were from the aliens. And maybe, just maybe, that difference was exactly what made them so valuable in the eyes of the Vitorans. The tests were growing more bizarre by the minute, and the humans were starting to feel like they were living in some kind of strange reality show. Every new procedure the Vitorans conducted seemed more invasive and puzzling than the last. But what was most unsettling was the Vitorans' fascination with their reactions. To them, it seemed like every test was an unexpected challenge, one that left the aliens struggling to comprehend the full complexity of human biology. After the sensory tests, Kelver announced that they would move on to a more physical examination. The humans were instructed to lie on a smooth table, and small devices began to hover over their bodies. These machines, which seemed to scan and assess each muscle and bone, were designed to detect any weaknesses in human physiology. At first, the humans were wary. They had no idea what the Vitorans were searching for or how far the test would go. "We need to understand your physical endurance," Kelver explained. "Please relax. This will only take a moment." Dr. Harper closed her eyes, trying to stay calm, though she could feel her heart racing. Alex, the soldier, on the other hand, was not quite as composed. He had been on many battlefields, but nothing had ever made him feel so exposed and helpless as lying on a cold alien table, surrounded by glowing machines that seemed to study every part of him. Suddenly, the machines emitted a low hum, and strange vibrations coursed through their bodies. The humans were instructed to hold their positions as the vibrations intensified. At first, it felt like a gentle massage, but soon it became more forceful, almost like the machines were testing how long the humans could endure the pressure. Alex's jaw tightened as he fought the urge to squirm, while Dr. Harper breathed steadily through the discomfort. The Vitorans observed in silence, their eyes glowing with a mix of curiosity and amazement. "Your muscles," one of them murmured, "they react to stimuli in ways we've never seen. Even under stress, your bodies seem to resist damage." Alex finally spoke, his voice strained but steady. "We're used to discomfort. It's just part of who we are." The Vitorans exchanged glances, unsure of how to interpret the soldier's words. What did it mean to be used to discomfort? The Vitorans were accustomed to physical endurance, but they had never seen anything like the humans. The fact that they were so resilient, even in the face of discomfort, was puzzling. But it was also starting to intrigue them. Was this resilience a result of evolution, or was it something more? "Are humans always this tough?" one of the Vitorans asked. Dr. Harper let out a small laugh despite herself. "We aren't always tough, but we have a way of pushing through. We're built to adapt." That word, adapt, seemed to strike a chord with the Vitorans. The aliens had spent centuries perfecting their technology and their societies, but the humans' ability to adapt to any situation was something they couldn't replicate. It wasn't just physical strength that made humans resilient. It was their will to survive, their ability to think on their feet, and their refusal to give up when faced with overwhelming odds. The Vitorans, who had once prided themselves on their technological superiority, now found themselves facing something they hadn't expected. A species that thrived on chaos, on change, and on the constant evolution of their bodies and minds. The humans' ability to keep pushing forward, even when things seemed impossible, was a trait that the Vitorans found both astonishing and unsettling. As the test ended, the humans were instructed to stand and stretch. But not before the Vitorans made one last observation. They were fascinated by the humans' recovery time. Unlike the Vitorans, who could endure great physical strain but needed a long period of rest afterward, the humans seemed to bounce back much more quickly. Even Alex, who had been tense throughout the test, seemed to recover in record time. "Your endurance is unlike anything we've seen," Kelver said, still processing the data. You are unpredictable, but in a way that is remarkably effective. It was then that the humans realized something important. The Vitorans were beginning to admire them, not for their technology or their peaceful nature, but for something far more fundamental, their ability to survive, adapt, and keep going no matter what. It was this resilience, this human spirit, that made them both strange and powerful in the eyes of the Vitorans. The test had become less about biology and more about the strength of the human will. And that, it seemed, was something the Vitorans could never fully understand, but it was something they had come to respect deeply. By now, the humans had experienced more than they ever imagined during what was supposed to be a simple medical examination. Every test had left them more baffled than the last. They had been scanned, prodded, and observed in ways they never thought possible. But as strange as it had been, the Vitorans' fascination with their biology was becoming clearer. The aliens were truly struggling to understand the uniqueness of human beings. After the physical endurance tests, the humans were taken to another room, a sleek chamber filled with holographic projections and complex machines that seemed to float in midair. Kelver, the lead scientist, gestured for the humans to sit in comfortable chairs. It was clear that this next test would be different from the ones before. For the first time, the humans felt a bit of relief. This room didn't seem so intimidating. "We will now test your cognitive abilities," Kelver explained, his voice steady but still laced with curiosity. "We need to understand how your minds process information." The humans looked at each other, silently agreeing that this would hopefully be less uncomfortable than the physical tests. They had dealt with their bodies being analyzed, but their minds, that was a different matter. "We will show you a series of patterns, symbols, and questions," Kelver continued. "Your responses will reveal much about your thinking processes." The first few tests were simple enough, shapes that changed color and patterns that shifted rapidly across the screen. The humans were asked to identify them quickly. Some were easier than others, but most of the humans, especially the scientists, found themselves solving the puzzles with relative ease. They were used to patterns, to critical thinking, and the challenge didn't seem so foreign. But soon, the questions grew more complex. The Vitorans began showing them abstract concepts, questions that had no clear answer. They weren't about facts or logic, but about imagination and creativity. One question asked them to choose a solution to a problem that had no known solution, a test of innovation. Another asked them to predict the future based on a set of chaotic and unrelated events. At first, the humans thought the questions were a joke. "This is ridiculous," Alex muttered, shaking his head as he glanced at Dr. Harper. "How are we supposed to answer something like that?" But the Vitorans were serious. They were studying how the humans thought, how they could take seemingly random pieces of information and create something meaningful out of them. They were fascinated by the humans' ability to think in such unpredictable ways. Humans didn't just solve problems, they invented new ways of thinking. They didn't rely solely on logic or reasoning. They relied on creativity, intuition, and something even more unpredictable, their emotions. One by one, the humans began answering the questions. At first, their responses were hesitant, unsure of how the Vitorans would react. But then, something shifted. The humans, all of them, began to surprise themselves. They didn't just answer the questions. They approached them from angles the Vitorans hadn't considered. They thought outside the box, way outside. Maria, the college student, answered the first question by combining unrelated ideas from her education and her life experiences. "I don't know if it's the best answer, but it's something that could work," she said confidently. Alex, the soldier, offered an answer that was based on pure intuition, something instinctive yet practical. "You can't always rely on strategy. Sometimes you just need to trust your gut," he explained. And Dr. Harper, the scientist, offered a solution that was both logical and creative. "We can't always predict everything, but we can plan for uncertainty," she said, her voice calm but filled with insight. The Vitorans watched in awe. They had expected humans to answer based on reasoning alone, but the humans had brought something else to the table, a complexity that was far beyond logic or emotion. It was the combination of both, a blend of intellect and feeling that drove human innovation and creativity. The Vitorans had never encountered anything like it. You think differently than we do, Kelver said, clearly impressed. Your minds, they are so versatile. You do not rely on pure logic. You rely on intuition, creativity, and what is it? Emotion. It is as if you do not simply seek solutions, but you create them. Dr. Harper nodded, understanding what the Vitorans were saying. Yes, that's what makes us human. Our minds work in ways that can't always be explained by logic alone. We are unpredictable, yes, but we are also capable of incredible feats because of it. The Vitorans were silent for a moment, as if processing the implications of what they had just witnessed. They had always believed that logic and reason were the highest forms of intelligence, the key to understanding the universe. But the humans had just shown them something they hadn't anticipated, something that defied their understanding. As the test concluded, the humans felt a sense of accomplishment. They hadn't just passed a test, they had proven something. They had shown the Vitorans that the human mind was more than just a machine for solving problems. It was a tool for creating new worlds, new ideas, and new ways of seeing the universe. The humans weren't just surviving in the galaxy. They were shaping it, one thought at a time. The tests seemed to go on forever. What started as an intriguing invitation to explore human biology had turned into an exhaustive series of procedures, some of which left the humans feeling drained and disoriented. But in the face of every new test, the humans held their ground. They were learning something important through all the discomfort. The Vitorans might have the technology, but it was the human spirit that made them truly unique. By the sixth test, the Vitorans had moved beyond biology and intellect. Now they were probing the depths of human emotions. The chamber they were taken to now was unlike any they had seen before. It was a smooth round room with walls that pulsed with light. There was no equipment in sight, no glowing wires or hovering devices. Instead, the room seemed designed to influence the humans in more subtle ways. They were all standing in the center of the room, facing a large transparent screen. "We will now test your emotional resilience," Kelver announced. "We want to understand how you handle stress, fear, and your deepest emotions." At the word fear, a few of the humans instinctively tensed up. Dr. Harper caught Alex's eye. "This doesn't sound good," she whispered. Kelver nodded, sensing their unease. "Do not worry. This will not harm you. But we will simulate a scenario, something that triggers your emotions. We will observe how you react." The lights in the room dimmed, and suddenly, the screen flickered to life. Images appeared, showing a variety of scenarios, some familiar, others completely alien. First, the humans saw a peaceful scene. A small child playing in a park. The humans relaxed, some even smiling at the sight. But the mood shifted as the screen displayed another image, a disaster unfolding before their eyes. A spaceship was crashing, fire and smoke engulfing the area, and the humans saw themselves, or at least their silhouettes, trapped in the wreckage. Dr. Harper felt her breath catch in her throat. She could feel the panic rising as the scenes played out before her. Alex clenched his fists. He had been through countless dangerous situations in his life, but this felt different. It wasn't just a scenario. It felt real, like the flames were lapping at his feet. But as the images continued, something strange happened. Instead of giving in to the fear or panic, the humans began to act. They saw themselves pulling together, forming plans, trying to escape, helping others in distress. Even though the situation seemed hopeless, the humans' resolve didn't waver. Their resilience, even in the face of unimaginable stress, was undeniable. Kelver watched all of this in silence, clearly stunned. He had expected the humans to freeze, to react with chaos, but instead they fought against their fear, working together as if their survival depended on it. The Vitorans, who valued control above all else, couldn't understand this. To them, emotional reactions were a weakness. Yet the humans had shown them something different. Their emotions didn't just make them vulnerable. They made them stronger. When the simulation ended, the humans were left standing, breathing hard, their hearts racing. The Vitorans gave them a moment to collect themselves before Kelver spoke again. You faced that with bravery," he said, his voice filled with awe. "You did not crumble under pressure. Instead, you adapted. You relied on each other." Dr. Harper wiped her forehead, still trying to calm her racing heart. "That's what humans do. We come together in times of crisis. It's how we survive." Kelver turned to his fellow scientists. "This is unexpected. Your species, despite your emotional nature, possesses a strength that we have not seen in any other. You face fear not by ignoring it, but by working through it." The Vitorans had always believed that true strength came from logic and the absence of emotion. To them, fear was something to be avoided at all costs. But now, standing before the humans, they realized that emotion wasn't just a weakness. It was a driving force, a wellspring of power that pushed humans to overcome even the most overwhelming obstacles. The room fell silent for a moment. The Vitorans were not used to admitting that their understanding of strength might be incomplete, but that was exactly what was happening. They had come to study the humans, to understand them. But in doing so, they had discovered something entirely new, a hidden strength within the humans that they hadn't anticipated. "We have underestimated you," Kelver finally admitted. "Your strength is not just in your bodies or minds. It is in your hearts, in your ability to endure, to overcome." Dr. Harper smiled faintly. "That's exactly what makes us human." The humans were beginning to feel the weight of everything they had learned so far. The Vitorans might have the technology, but it was the resilience, creativity, and emotion of humanity that truly set them apart. It wasn't about being the strongest physically or the most intelligent. It was about the ability to face whatever challenges came their way and rise above them. As the test concluded, the humans left the chamber with a new understanding of themselves. They weren't just survivors. They were warriors of the mind and spirit, capable of facing the unknown with a resilience that no machine or alien race could replicate. The final test was upon them. After everything they had been through, the strange lights, the confusing emotional simulations, the endless scans and questions, the humans had endured it all. But now, they stood before the Vitorans, who had gathered in the grand chamber. This room was unlike any other. It was vast, with shimmering walls that seemed to pulse with an energy of their own, as if the very space itself was alive. Kelver, the Vitoran lead scientist, stood at the front, his glowing eyes scanning each human. The last test, he explained, would be a final evaluation, a chance for the humans to demonstrate everything they had learned and what made them unique. "You have endured everything we have thrown at you," Kelver began, his voice calm but tinged with admiration. "But now we wish to understand the essence of your species. We will present you with a choice, a single decision that will test your deepest instincts. Will you survive alone, or will you choose to help one another, despite the cost?" The humans exchanged wary glances. What did he mean by this? Hadn't they already shown enough of their strength and unity? "Take your time," Kelver continued. "There is no right answer, only the truth of your species." The humans were led into the center of the room, where a large holographic display appeared before them. It showed a dramatic scene, a vast alien landscape with two groups of people stranded in different areas, surrounded by danger. One group was injured, unable to move. The other was strong and healthy but far away, with no way of knowing the other group's plight. The challenge was simple yet devastating. The humans could choose to leave the injured group behind and save themselves, or they could risk everything, journey across the dangerous landscape, and help the others, knowing that doing so might endanger their own lives. At first, there was silence. The humans were used to tough choices, to sacrificing for the greater good. But this was different. There was no easy answer, no clear path to victory. Each person stood frozen, torn between their own survival and the survival of others. Alex, the soldier, was the first to speak. "We're not leaving anyone behind. We never do." The others nodded, their expressions serious but resolute. They didn't need to discuss it further. This was who they were. They were human, and they would always choose to help each other, no matter the cost. The Vitorans watched closely, their faces unreadable. They had expected the humans to be selfish, to think only of their own survival. But instead, they had chosen to risk everything to help others. It was an instinct that defied the Vitoran understanding of logic and self-preservation. To the Vitorans, survival meant doing whatever was necessary to preserve oneself, no matter the cost to others. But the humans had shown them something else. A deep, unshakable bond with one another that transcended their individual needs. "We have our answer," Kelver said quietly, his voice almost reverent. "You choose to protect one another, to act with compassion, even in the face of danger." The humans stood still, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't about winning the test. It wasn't about proving their strength or intelligence. It was about something far deeper. The willingness to help others, to show kindness and empathy, no matter the circumstances. The Vitorans were silent for a long time. They had expected this test to reveal weaknesses, flaws in the human's character. But instead, they had witnessed a strength they hadn't understood. It was a strength born not from technology or strategy, but from something intrinsic in the humans, their ability to care, to act with kindness, and to never leave anyone behind. Finally, Kelver spoke again, his voice filled with awe. "We have underestimated you. We came here to study your biology, your intellect, your strength. But what we have learned is something far more profound. You humans have a legacy, one built on compassion, on unity, on the willingness to sacrifice for one another. It is a strength that no technology can replicate." The humans were quiet, absorbing the words. But now, they understood that they had shown the Vitorans something far more important than their biology or intellect. They had shown them the true heart of humanity. As they left the Vitoran ship, the humans felt something new, a sense of pride, not just in their survival, but in the legacy they carried with them. They weren't just survivors of the galaxy. They were the ones who cared, who fought for each other, who would never leave anyone behind. The Vitorans may have come to learn about humans, but in the end, it was the humans who had taught them the most important lesson of all. That the strength of a species is not just in what they can do, but in how they treat one another. And that was something the Vitorans would never forget.